I love my job and I love serving the community, but I have been given no option.
Tonight, Gladys Berejiklian resigns as Premier, forced out by a corruption inquiry. Shock and sorrow, our state without a leader in the middle of a pandemic. How the shy daughter of immigrants blazed a trail to the very top. Who will be our next Premier? Tonight, the main contenders. Free to fly out, free to come home. Our international borders about to open. And the Rabbitohs and Panthers make their last appearance before the grand final, but a key player is missing.
This is 9 News with Georgie Garden.
Good evening. The whisper became a roar, then reality. Gladys Berejiklian today sensationally resigning after almost 5 years as Premier, as she faces an investigation by the state's corruption watchdog. Ms Berejiklian has steered the state through bushfires, floods and the pandemic, and will leave Parliament as soon as it's possible to hold a by-election. Speculation she was quitting grew through the morning. Then came her bombshell news conference.
We've seen Gladys Berejiklian walk this walk countless times, but never like this.
I've had to make an extremely difficult decision overnight, but one which I feel obliged to do because of the love and respect I have for the people of New South Wales and the high regard with which I have for the office of Premier. Therefore, it pains me to announce that I have no option but to resign from the office of Premier.
Stressed, sleepless and broken. Our Premier of almost 5 years forced out not by voters, not even her colleagues, but lawyers at the ICAC.
I was advised late yesterday afternoon the Independent Commission Against Corruption will today release a public statement in which it will state it is investigating allegations made about me concerning matters relating to the former member for Wagga Wagga.
The Corruption Commission confirming they're investigating whether Gladys Berejiklian engaged in conduct that constituted or involved a breach of public trust.
My resignation as Premier could not occur at a worse time, but the timing is completely outside of my control, as the ICAC has chosen to take this action during the most challenging weeks of the most challenging times in the state's history. That is the ICAC's prerogative. Resigning at this time is against every instinct in my being and something which I do not want to do. I love my job and I love serving the community, but I have been given no option following the statement that's been issued today.
Her ministerial mates in a circle watching as the woman who has led us through drought, fire, floods and a pandemic was undone by what she knew about former boyfriend, Darryl Maguire.
I state categorically I've always acted with the highest level of integrity. History will demonstrate that I've always executed my duties, again, with the highest level of integrity for the benefit of the people of New South Wales, who I have had the privilege to serve. As the leader of the New South Wales Government, I have expected the highest standards of myself and my colleagues. That same standard must always apply to me also as the Premier. However, standing aside is not an option for me as the Premier of New South Wales.
Maguire has in the past admitted to seeking commission for setting up property deals and being involved in a cash for visa scheme where they would hire Chinese citizens that never showed up. Allegations explored by the ICAC when Gladys Berejiklian admitted her and Darryl were in a secret relationship.
You're in a close personal relationship with Mr. Maguire. Correct. Is it right to say that you were in a close personal relationship with Mr. Maguire from at least about the time of the 2015 election?
Oh, well, slightly after, thereabouts.
Are you still in a close personal relationship with Mr. Maguire?
But it was this phone tap that Gladys Berejiklian has not been able to resolve.
You know my little friend?
Not really. Don't worry.
I
don't need to know. Which little friend are you talking about?
I don't need to know about that bit.
Darryl's little friend was a property developer.
I deny the proposition that I turned a blind eye.
This is the key reason as to why ICAC has continued to investigate Ms Berejiklian.
To continue as Premier would disrupt the state government during a time when our entire attention should be focused on the challenges confronting New South Wales.
2 government grants are under a cloud. One of $5.5 million to the Australian Clay Target Association in Wagga Wagga, the other to the Riverina Conservatorium of Music. Ms Berejiklian now the 3rd Premier that the corruption watchdog has pushed off the podium.
Gladys is a dear friend of mine. We've known each other for a long time. She has displayed heroic qualities heroic qualities as the Premier of New South Wales.
Taking off from the government offices in Martin Place, across the Harbour Bridge to her North Shore townhouse, Gladys Berejiklian coming to terms with the fact she is not just quitting as Premier, but leaving Parliament altogether, a job she's had since 2003.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank the Liberal Party to whom I owe my career, the people of the electorate of Willoughby who have elected me 5 times to be their Member of Parliament, my parliamentary colleagues for their support and hard work, my outstanding and loyal staff, past and present, and to all the professional public servants with whom I have worked. I also want to thank my family and friends who provided me with unconditional support and understanding.
An immigrant from Armenia who couldn't speak English when she arrived at a public school in Ryde, rising to become one of the most powerful people in Australia.
I want to thank you, the people of New South Wales. When the chips were down in the past few years, in particular during the drought or the bushfires and now COVID, we stood alongside each other. We've grieved and supported each other during these tragedies. I hope you know that you will remain foremost in my thoughts. The courage that you display in your lives every day has inspired me every step of the way. The courage and the support you've shown me has humbled me and made me a better leader and a better person. Serving you has been the greatest privilege of my life.
A woman who didn't just navigate the blokey world of politics, but steered New South Wales through one of its toughest periods since the war.
I truly believe that New South Wales is a place where every person, irrespective of their background and circumstances, has the opportunity to be their best to make a difference. So as I address you for the final time as your Premier, please stay the course and stay safe. We will be shortly out of this lockdown and be able to go on with our lives. New South Wales and its people will come out of this lockdown stronger, and together we will build a future full of optimism and hope. Finally, thank you again for giving me the honour of being your Premier. Thank you very much.
Chris O'Keefe joins us now. Chris, this was a shock. Even the premiers in a circle were only told at the last minute.
And that is very Gladys Berejiklian. Keane, Perrottet, Ayres, Dominello had no idea this was happening today when I started to hear rumours of it brewing very early this morning. Even the premier's staff were largely kept in the dark. Ultimately, though, it was the only decision Gladys Berejiklian could make. But make no mistake, this is also a test for the Independent Commission Against Corruption. ICAC knew their actions today would leave a lockdown state without a leader in the middle of the most damaging health crisis in recent history, and they chose to proceed anyway. The feelings within government is if ICAC does not have slam-dunk evidence that proves Gladys Berejiklian is either corrupt or has aided corruption, then the heat turns on the body itself and the taxpayer-funded lawyers who run it. Georgie, the stakes are very, very high.
Don't get any higher, Chris. Thank you.